Yes, here we are once again. Which, of course, means if you're watching live, it is noon Eastern Time on a Wednesday. It's time for the High Noon Hemp Show. Of course, you can watch video on demand, you can watch us live, whatever you want to do. Facebook, Hemptations Beach, Facebook page, Jedi Hemp YouTube channel, and at Hemptations on Twitter. With the podcast, of course, Podbean, Google Play, iHeartRadio. Check us out on any of those platforms for the audio only. As you see right there, we are celebrating anniversaries. If you follow the show, of course, early September is a time of anniversaries in the show and at Hemptations, of course, the anniversary, 27-year anniversary of Hemptations just passed. And 2 days ago, it was officially the fourth anniversary of the High Noon Hemp Show being on the air, which is incredible. 4 years have flown by. Thank you all for sticking with us through however many episodes you've gone through with us, whether it's 180 or 2 or anything in between. I am Stoner Jesus. He is Beach, high above the Hemptations in Sharonville, Ohio. The Hemp Quarters. Beach, how are things in this anniversary time at Hemptations?
Feeling the humble, I guess. In 4 years, man, that is crazy. Doing the show. How about that? And of course, 27 years in Temptations is, every year I'm just like, wow. This year's a big one, I suppose, just because things are so slow and it's just kind of crazy out there. Um, but anyway, here we are, 4 years later on the High Noon Hemp Show. Thanks everybody for watching. Welcome. It is true. I am high above the Sharonville location in what I call Planet Everywhere Productions Studios. Live. And maybe you're watching non-live later, but I'm still live now. You can't convince me that I'm not. Don't even try. Um, I would like to say that the FDA has not evaluated this show for safety or efficacy. Um, Celebrating these anniversaries, it's great. I'm actually going to be on the Brian Thomas show here in Cincinnati tomorrow on 55 KRC. That'll be at 8:05 in the morning, the AM Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be discussing some of the studies that have been recently popping up on CBD for the most part. And so there are some of those to come in today's news on the High Noon Hemp Show. So you're going to have to keep watching there. We got a lot of good stuff again this week. A lot of mostly good stuff going on in the hemp world. It is true. Let's jump right into the product spotlight. Get that out of the way so we can get on with it. This first one is the cream. Now, we've been carrying the cream disposables, but this is the THCP, which another one, you have to go look it up, THCP, and see what's going on there. But this is another one of the newer industrial hemp extracts that we've been putting on the shelves and getting decently popular. This one's kind of new, so we'll have to see what the response is to THCP. We did just get a fresh batch of raw cones in, so if you've been waiting for that, there's been a high demand. Trust me. The raw cones are back in stock, 1.25 and king size. So run on in. It's a high demand product. Here's a not so high demand product, but if you wanted to come in and check out the IHL CBD hash. We got a really decent selection of it here in Sharonville. I think they've actually marked it down to 50%. So I don't know if I can. If you want this to go to a particular location, so you can try it, let us know, and we'll get some of the CBD hash to your particular closest location if there's none there on the shelves. And so give that a try, if you will. It comes with a free little ceramic cigarette one. So it's almost like a glass piece, honestly. I'm pretty sure it's ceramic. It's not the metal one. It's the ceramic one. And so that in itself is just a great value. can't believe that these haven't sold one way or another. And then, of course, the other special going on this week until they are gone is the Seltzer 8. Um, these are Delta 8 seltzers. They are expired or really close to expiring, and so we're doing buy one get two free.
Wow.
Buy one get two free. So you could buy two and get a 6-pack.
There you go.
Why wouldn't you do that? If you enjoy Delta 8, trust me, you're going to enjoy that. So there's the 4 from my store. My store. Like, that's awful humble. That's not humble at all. 4 from these stores. The one from my door was recently found by my love. This is the Dr. Teal's foaming bath, and as you can see, they are very proud of their use of hemp seed oil. You know, it's right there big on the label, and then right underneath where it's big on the label, they go ahead and like reiterize how hemp seed oil is extra moisturizing and whatnot. And so we have added this to the shower. And so, you know, again, a product that's that I like to see, you know, and they're very proud of their adding hemp seed oil. And this is a new product for Dr. Teal's. So again, this is what we're wanting to see everywhere and anywhere and everywhere. Show us the hemp. And so recently added to my personal. Wonder why it's not telling me we're live on YouTube. What's going on there? That's kind of weird.
On my end. I'm not sure.
Because usually it tells me and it's not telling me. Huh. Interesting and whatnot. Huh. I'm not sure. Maybe if you usually watch on YouTube, we're not on YouTube, let us know. I don't know how you would do that. And you're wondering why we're not there.
I don't know. It says we're broadcasting live.
Huh. That is super weird. Because it's not, usually it tells me live, and then I click on that, and then we're live, and it's not doing that.
Technology.
Yeah, you know, what do we do, folks? Dun, 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 dun. Let's get on with the show. How about that? There was 4 from the store, 1 from my door on the High Noon Hemp Show. Now, dun, dun, dun.
Especially for 4 years, every show, I've asked Beach a very important question. And Beach tells us about it, and he shows us about it in a little segment we like to call the Beachwear segment. You guys get it. You guys are smart, the Beachwear segment. I ask Beach, and he answers. When I say, what are you wearing, Beach?
It's true. You know, every day I wear hemp head to toe. Wednesdays, we make it a show. So if you want to know, what are you wearing, Beach?
Look at that.
Now you will. I tried to rhyme that, but I couldn't. Anyway, on the lid up top, I've got my Vaboom hat. That's right, Vaboom. VOBOOM. This is a 2013 Hemp History Week T-shirt. I like this. It's interesting because the tag actually says. I was wondering who made these, but the tag actually says Hemp History Week. And this particular Hemp History Week shirt was made with hemp and organic cotton, which I'm really proud of, actually. And so 2013, that would have been one of the earliest or earlier celebratings of Hemp History Week, which kind of went away. It became Hemp Week, and then this year, I didn't hear or see anything about it, so I don't know what happened to Hemp Week. It's Hemp Week every week here on the High Noon Hemp Show. That's for sure. You got a Hempy's belt holding up a classic. The whole outfit is based around these shorts because I've just recently found these, and these are Ecolution shorts, and these were some of my favorite shorts for a while. And then I think I kind of put them away because I was wearing them a lot, and I had actually worn a hole through one pair of these that I had. I just need to sew it up. It's on the seat. I guess I was just sitting around in my hemp too much. No, I think it was just how much I really wore these particular shorts. back in the day, because they're at least 15, 20 years old, maybe, probably 15, every bit. And then you can see there in the pocket, as always, my Green Springs Technology pen. Underneath it all, we have a pair of Hemptopia briefs and Good Morning Company no-show socks, which you can barely see in the picture right beside the briefs there. Um, and then another pair of Saucony Jazz breaking out. I know I've been showing those off quite a bit recently. These are my blue ones because this is blue. This outfit is blue. And again, with the Saucony Jazz, that is their vegan line of shoes. And so there you have it. If you were wondering, what are you wearing, Beach? Now you know from head to toe here on the High Noon Hemp Show. Dun, dun, dun. Now for some news. The news. Um, I was looking up Mark Twain because I was curious. I knew that it was actually a length or a depth. It is Mark. The term Mark Twain is based on riverboating. Um, a twain is about 6 feet. Um, and a mark, yes, that's right. And so um, a Mark Twain, I believe, is 12 feet. It's two twains. And again, they have this big long list of all the twains, and a fathom. A fathom is 12 feet, I believe, too, or something like that. So a Mark Twain is equivalent to a fathom in nautical terms. But it didn't take me very long to find this in the article. The line itself in the old days was probably made of manila, hemp, or sisal, which is 100% true because probably up to about 100 years ago, most lines on most ships and boats and everything was made out of manila hemp or sisal, and predominantly hemp, especially sea bearing. Maybe not river boats as much with the hemp, but sea bearing because it really held up to the salt water and it was really good for that. So anyway, there you have it. More proof. Hemp used everywhere up until about 100 years ago, until 1937. And now we're getting back to there. And in fact, here's a pic of some tiny houses that are building in Ireland. There's a housing dilemma in Ireland, I guess. And this article was talking about these little tiny houses.
This one? This one?
It's a split picture. Yes, that's it. So on the left there, that's a little tiny house on a trailer. You can see. The picture on the right is what they're using. It's a sugar-based resin sourced from plant waste, and it's locally grown hemp. And again, they're also using bamboo, I believe, in these. But these are very eco-friendly little tiny homes. Of course, a tiny home is just you can make it out of anything, and it's eco-friendly. Just the footprint of the house is much smaller. But they used the hemp to keep it lightweight, more or less. And so you can move them and get them where you need them to go, and move them again if you had to. And so that's kind of neat that they're building these little tiny houses in Ireland, because there seems to be a housing shortage, using hemp and bamboo and sugar resin from plant waste. Brilliant.
Wow.
Brilliant, I say. Here's a little sad news, I suppose. I found out, I was reading some articles about Indiana's hemp. They lost 20% of their hemp last year from being hot. And being hot means more than 0.4% THC in the flower, tested at the end of the year by dry weight. So you dry it and then you test it, and so it's a fifth of all the hemp grown in Indiana being destroyed because of that it is truly sad. And again, that's part of why we're trying to get those trying to get those THC percentages up in industrial hemp, um, because it's a ridiculous waste of plant material. Again, you can make that 0% after the plant. So if your plant's tested hot, then you say, well, then you would have to agree to make a CBD isolate out of that, and then destroy that THC because that was too much THC. Because now we can have a legal amount of THC, that 0.3%. Hey there, it's telling me I'm live now. There I am live on YouTube, folks. Thanks for being there if you're there. Um, but now we can have that legal amount of 0.3% THC, and at the end of the extraction process, put it up on the shelf and then put it in something and sell it legally as an industrial hemp byproduct. Um, but to destroy the plants because there's too much THC, again, if you're growing for CBD, then just make it so the agreement is you have to make that into an isolate. You cannot put that into a full spectrum or a broad spectrum. Well, you can do broad spectrum too, because broad spectrum means the THC is removed. Either way, you have to agree to remove all the THC, and then you still have product that you can use. Um, I think that with all the testing, they can clearly identify those people that need to do that, and then they go in their own category, and then their end product is tested. You know, and so therefore, when their end product goes to the shelves, then they test that and they say, oh, 0 THC, you took it out, you're good. I mean, that's really the way that it should go to begin with. Um, all in all, instead of being hot, and again, if you're growing for grain or you're growing for fiber, zero matter. I mean, to destroy a fiber crop or a grain crop because it was too hot is really, really silly, because there's no THC in the grain and there's no THC in the fiber. Um, and so there's, once again, test the end product. And then you'll find that even if it was too high in THC, Delta 9, um, that the end product didn't have it, and so it's safe. It's no different than all the other industrial hemp products out there. This is obviously some fine lines they don't want to cross, and that's why we need to have the minimum up. That's why we need to make all cannabis in the United States legal, and then there would be less worry about these things, I believe. As long as people were on the up and up and said what they said. If this CBD product contains 1% THC, then that product contains 1% THC. If this CBD product contains 0 THC, then this product contains 0 THC, and then there's still a market for all of those products. There's still a market for all of those products. So, we are coming up on a farm bill, and we're crossing our fingers that one of the things the farm bill addresses is the THC limit. But I don't know if they're ready to do anything about it yet. I don't know that if there's been enough of a controversial issue. But just knowing that just a fifth of Indiana's entire industrial hemp crop was destroyed last year, when it really shouldn't have been. I know that's the law, that's the policy. I'm sorry, that's the policy. They didn't break any laws; they broke the policy, which is good because they aren't criminals because of that. Even though the DEA would still say that they were, but is what that is for sure. Um, so we'll see what happens with this year's farm bill for sure. But we all want higher THC limits in industrial hemp, and eventually we want to live in a world where it doesn't matter. Again, it's up to the end product, the product that hits the shelves, um, that matters anyway. And I totally agree with that. I don't. THC Delta 9 is not for everyone. CBD can be, or is, for everyone. Because there are no side effects. It's safe to consume and drive a motor vehicle and all those things. And in no way am I implying that it's unsafe to use cannabis in any form and drive a motor vehicle. But take some consideration when under the influence of certain things, and know that one way or another. Be smart, people. Elon Musk, some say he's pretty smart. He is promoting hemp, and he said Henry Ford did it, you can too. And so then this was the picture, the famous. And I was just talking about this car with somebody else, and of course they just couldn't believe it. They were like, "Come on, really?" But lo and behold, the hemp car that Henry Ford made. Again, the outside, the shell, the body of the vehicle was made out of hemp. Okay, and the engine was actually meant to run on industrial hemp. Okay, one of the greatest things ever invented that never went to production, and one of the reasons why it never went to production. At first, when he developed the car, okay, there was, they had just made hemp illegal, but I don't even know if he knew that. But then all of a sudden the war breaks out, and there's the United States makes the video, Hemp for War, in which Hemp for the War, grow hemp for the war. And it was a 15-minute documentary basically imploring farmers to grow hemp because it was a necessity for World War II. So all of a sudden the car gets put to the side because at that point, to use that hemp, he was gonna, just like the metal and the steel and all those things that he had to kind of sacrifice on for the war. He said, okay, well, then I'm not going to build this car. All of a sudden the war ends, and his thoughts of building the hemp car go completely away because he realizes that hemp is illegal to grow in the United States. So the last thing Henry Ford is going to do is import anything, probably. I don't know why he couldn't have imported the raw materials of hemp from another country, but I don't think he wanted to do that. He definitely didn't want to get it from China. If China was the grower of hemp, then I don't even know where, it was prevalent at the time, to be honest with you, to get it for, because we were one of the largest growers. Russia, we weren't going to deal with Russia. And so, the dream of the hemp car, Henry Ford's hemp car, basically went away because the supply of hemp wasn't there for him to do it in the United States when he wanted to do it. All because of the Marijuana Tax Act of 1937, which was turned into the Controlled Substance Act in 1970. Still makes, well, now we're at least back to being able to legally grow industrial hemp. So Ford, I scream at you as a car company, and you're building electric cars. Bring back the hemp, Henry Ford's hemp car. Doesn't have to look like that, but streamline it a little bit. I think people might like it. Hard to say. I don't know. But you can do anything, because again, the cars right now, currently car companies, BMW dropped their body weight by making all their door panels in their electric vehicles out of hemp. Porsche has experimented with hemp in their body, and their high end electric sports car racing cars. Mercedes uses it. There are plenty of car companies that currently use hemp composite. Lotus built a Eco Elise. It was a eco version of their Elise car, and it had hemp, basically hemp running down the middle like a big, huge, wide racing stripe as part of the body, and entwined right there with the rest of it. So, it's lighter, but just as strong as what we are building vehicles out of right now. So again, for fuel economy, for all those reasons, it just seems like a logical thing to do. So, and the hemp car needs to make a comeback. There's some out there, but we need somebody huge to build a bunch of them, so we can all be driving around in hemp cars, and the planet will love us for it. Using hemp fuel, planet would love us for that. Again, the original diesel was biodiesel. It was supposed to be on a vegetable oil, hemp included, until it became petrochemically based. Ay, ay, ay. Anyway, we need to get back to that world once again. About 100 years ago. About 100 years ago. I don't want to go back in. I want to go back in the what we were using 100 years ago. I don't want to go back in the technology now. We need to again 21st century the heck out of this stuff. Um, but it's all should be done right now. Um, let's see. Oh, here's interesting. Yeah, although most of Europe is actually 0.3%, and this was an article about Estonia who's going from 0.2% to 0.3% to catch up with most of Europe on industrial hemp. Switzerland, and I think I might have mentioned this one time before, Switzerland is actually 1%. So in Switzerland, if you grow industrial hemp, you can have up to 1% uh, THC Delta 9. And so good, Switzerland's leading the way. I want to start saying we should all be like Switzerland when it comes to hemp. And so there you have it. I don't think, and I do believe, and we'll see what the numbers say about that. I do believe that Switzerland is always at the top of the list as the happiest citizens. So it's not making Switzerland a bad place to live by upping that THC content a little. It's kind of interesting. Now, agriculture is the number one business, so to speak, I'm sorry, the number two business, so to speak, in Florida behind tourism. Agriculture is. Now, what are you thinking? Oh, you're thinking oranges, aren't you? Guess what? I believe, I read that 40% of the orange population has been decimated in Florida. They don't even grow oranges in Florida anymore because it's getting too cold down there, supposedly, or whatnot. But agriculture is still big, and what we're seeing is, farms that have been around for 50 years switching to hemp. Now, a lot of them are doing CBD, but some of them are actually going to switch over to the grain, I think. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see. And again, I think that in Florida, I would almost guess it probably doesn't get too cold for hemp. You could almost grow two crops. And so, it'd be kind of interesting to see how much they can do. And if anyone's, I'm sure that there's probably I would guess maybe some CBD farmers. Now, I don't know if CBD flowers if it gets cold enough to the oranges to destroy orange crops on a semi-regular basis, then it might get too cold. Might get too cold to grow hemp for flower, deflower, as opposed to growing it for the grain, which is the flower part, and so that might, or the fiber, and so might be kind of interesting to see if you can do that one way or another. Just like Texas right now is, they're they're saying, hemp is drought resistant, so they were growing it, and this particular drought in Texas is having an impact on hemp. And of course, once again, if you're growing for flower, that's not the drought resistant hemp that when you grow for grain or when you grow for fiber plant is. And so I think that's another reason why, a lot of the farmers in Texas, particularly, be like, yeah, you said it was drought resistant. Now we're growing it and it's not. And because it's, when we talked about drought resistant hemp, that was more for the fiber or the grain, not the CBD. That was, that kind of ideology came about and is true before the CBD market. No one in the THC Delta 9 market would tell you that cannabis is drought resistant. Okay, nobody deprives their plants of water when they're growing for Delta 9 or the flower. And so you gotta know what you're growing for, and you gotta really know the facts there when it comes to hemp being drought resistant. which is again more on the grain and the fiber side of the plant, not the flower side of the plant. That's for sure. Um, Here's a map of Delta 8 legality. It's kind of interesting because, like most of the Midwest, if you look, it's like Midwest is legal, and then you get out like West, and it's like the yellow is the one where it's like an unsure, which I think is interesting. Now I know why in Michigan they're unsure, because Michigan is trying to put Delta 8 under the guise of their medical program or something, and I think maybe some of these other states that haven't made it illegal are doing the same thing. They're switching it over, or they're saying that you can only do this, that, but and of course they're getting checked and finding out that they can't do that legally. They can't do that, and so I think in these unsure states, which are the yellow ones, um, there's some issues, or they're doing things that will eventually get checked. And of course, I think that in the states, and I think it's just so weird. It's like they're trying to protect their Delta 9 industry by making Delta 8 only available where you can buy Delta 9 stuff, when once again this is an industrial hemp product. And it just kills me that you can't legally buy Delta 8 in Colorado or Oregon, because they're trying to make it so you have to go to a dispensary or something. Is just kind of weird, honestly. And again, if you can just walk into a store and get Delta 9 legally, I don't understand why they'd make Delta 8 illegal. So that you could only buy it at a THC 9 store. But as you can see, most of the Midwest, we're all pretty good here around here, man. We're cool with Delta 8. And of course in Kentucky's now cool. That would have been red 6 months ago, maybe yellow 3 months ago, and now now is green because Kentucky got checked. And Texas was the same way. Texas started out red, and then became green when it came to Delta 8 because their laws were checked. Went to a judge of the Supreme Court that was informed enough to see that once again all industrial hemp, it's clearly in the Farm Bill, all industrial hemp extracts, byproducts are 100% legal. So there you have it. It just seems so backwards, some of these states that have made it illegal. That's for sure. And again, I think that most of those places will eventually some type of lawsuit or something will happen one way or another. A recent School of Medicine study showed that 70% of the patients with osteoarthritis or rheumatoid arthritis used CBD. Now, this is the real interesting part. Now, the reducing use of anti-inflammation, 31% of the people did that. 17% of those people got off of their anti-inflammation drugs they were on. Okay, 18% of the acetaminophen. I don't know this drug. Acetaminophen. 18% of those saw a reduction in use of that, and 17% stopped using it. Period. And this is kind of interesting because 8% of the people that used the CBD saw a reduction in their use of opioids, whereas 18% got off of the opioids. Okay, so more people with this study totally removed the opioids that they were using than the ones that actually just reduced their opioids use because of using CBD specifically for arthritis. Now, This is nothing new. The Arthritis Foundation did a study a couple years ago. I'm to go back to my stack of stuff, um, and they surveyed like 3,000 people, and again, I think it was 40% found success. And I think I do remember it was a decent amount of people had tried, but roughly around 40% had found success in using CBD for their arthritis, which we know firsthand here as well, because a lot of our customers use CBD uh, for their arthritis, one way or another. And so I think that this study was really interesting because this study actually showed the reduction of current drugs people are using, or the complete stopping of using the current drugs, pharmaceutical drugs that they were using for their arthritis. Again, we're gonna, we're gonna see more and more of that. We love a good study, though, that's for sure. Um, BuzzFeed article: just 25 eco-friendly home products that'll help improve your day to day. Number 4 is the good old hemp coffee filter. I think I shot a picture over, and I've shown the coffee filters planted everywhere here. We make coffee filters. You can get a reusable coffee filter right here at Hemptations. I hope I have these on the website, but I'm not even sure that I do, which is just ridiculous. Because I've been when I can and where I can, I've been using the same hemp coffee filter for 15 years. One of the hemp coffee filters that I have is at least 15 years old. There's no doubt about that. And then the Planet Everywhere ones, we've been making those for probably, 10. I bet we've been making Planet Everywhere coffee filters for 10 years. And I have one of those that I've been using on a semi-regular basis. That's what we use here at the office. Same coffee filter, folks, just so you realize. And then, if it gets a little rank or anything, which they don't normally, the more you use it, the better it is, honestly. But you can wash it out, rinse it out, on a semi-regular basis, and just keep using it. Just keep using it. Save the paper filters. Even if they're eco-friendly paper filters, we don't need them. You don't need them. One coffee filter for life. Coffee drinkers unite. Here is Pathfinder, which is a non-alcoholic hemp drink. They say it tastes like cola with kind of a bitter and floral note. What I think is interesting is this also includes wormwood. You know what that is? That's the happy ingredient. One of the happy ingredients in absinthe, which I think is interesting. Angelic root, ginger, sage, juniper, saffron, orange peel. Again, we're seeing a lot of, I have seen over the last year and reported, if you watch the High Noon Hemp Show, that there's been a lot of alcohol, liquor infused with hemp, but also I think even more non-alcoholic drinks, non-alcoholic alcohol tasting, or I think there's a real move to come up with non-alcoholic drinks to supplement alcohol. And again, we're seeing a lot of hemp being used for that, one way or another. Now, it's the most interesting part, and again, we've been seeing some beers brewed with hemp and whatnot. Cannabis and hops are in the same basically family of plants. And so now I do think that it's more again, if you were going to compare them, it'd be the flower because it's the hops. But brewing with hemp seed is something that we have seen, and then infusing hemp seed, which is just basically adding to the end result, is something else that we have seen in the industry when it comes to beer. And so I'm still waiting for one of the local breweries to do a Hemptations beer hemp, not CBD, but so far, not yet. We haven't agreed. I would agree if anyone wants to do it. I'm sure. Um, Here is a you saw Delta 8 was actually it was Alaska. I don't know if Hawaii is too, but wouldn't surprise me. Um, but in Hawaii, a shop owner is suing the state. Basically, from reading the article, what I saw was is Hawaii legalizes CBD. This guy opens up a CBD shop. Hawaii then changes the laws without really a vote, or I don't know how they did it. They changed the laws and they shut this guy down like out of the blue. Changed the laws, and all of a sudden he's operating illegally when he was, operating legally under the state laws. Um, and so he is suing the state, and because how they did what they did. We'll see what happens. When it comes to suing the government, they have their own way. And what's really funny is like, um, they're mentioning how the government shouldn't be able to pass their own laws without you knowing about it, blah blah blah. And I was like, when they're going to say that everything they did was on public record,
Hmm.
it doesn't change any state that goes and votes on stuff that we have no idea. We have no idea.
Yeah.
Changing the laws and whatnot. And so it's gonna be kind of interesting to follow how this all works out in Hawaii with this shop owner. Apparently, he's got a case because they're moving forward with it. And so we'll see. We'll see what happens there. And I wish him all the luck in the world because, again, it's just ridiculous. Honestly, ridiculous that, again, he was operating 100% legal and then they, behind closed doors, changed the laws and shut him down. Crazy. Got a little bit of clarification on the old FBI. Last week I said the FBI said no CBD use. The FBI is now, it only has to be a year. So it used to be, I got honestly, it's like 10 years, and it used to be in your life. Like you couldn't use cannabis at all in your life and get a job at the FBI. Now they have reduced that, but you don't tell them to use CBD in the last year either. So it can't be any cannabis use in the last year if you're going to go try to get a job at the FBI. And again, which is quite, CBD is legal.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's like I don't even understand why CBD is on the list. But why? It's because of the ignorance. Guess what? You can't have CBD in the government or in the military. Um, they can't drug test our senators, or they would tell senators they couldn't have CBD either. But they don't do that. They don't do that. Um, but yeah, you can't use it in the military. And again, a lot of police forces will say no CBD. Whether they test for it or whatnot is a whole nother issue. But technically, it is against the policy, and which again for the FBI, that's just silly. That's just silly. But it is what it is. Ignorance. It's just ignorance. Dr. Joshua Zechner, dermatologist, and I quote, CBD binds to a special set of receptors in the skin known as TRPV1 receptors, where it can help feelings of heat, itch, and pain. And also, through the skin, it does make it to the CB2 receptors. Now, we know that it doesn't go into the bloodstream, but we have the endocannabinoid receptor system running through our bodies. This is a medical fact with the CB1 and the CB2 receptors, and they go all through our body and they connect to every part of our body. Okay. These receptors are meant to take cannabinoids in, and then distribute it throughout the body to where it needs it. Now, apparently, that is, and we know that CBD is effective topically. A lot of our customers use CBD topically, but that CBD, and that's a good thing it doesn't go into the blood because it all goes to where you put it, and it has the right viscosity that actually absorbs into those layers of skin, lower muscles and whatnot, and that's why that the anti-inflammatory principles of it work so well as a topical. We're also seeing a lot of face creams. Like I just saw another famous person. I don't remember who it is. Who has a, she used CBD and it blew her away. So now she has her own CBD products. But, and I hate to use the word anti-aging, but CBD in hemp oil, and hemp oil, I should say, would be two great, and obviously work really well because puffiness is inflammation. Every day we hear from someone else or learn something else about how CBD is 100% fights inflammation. 100%. Here's a doctor. And he's not talking about inflammation. He's talking about heat, itch, and pain, actually. But that pain he's talking about is more than likely, not always, based on inflammation. Because again, we're talking about the skin, psoriasis and all those things. Hemp we know helps with that. We haven't seen as many CBD studies on psoriasis, but again, we know hemp oil is good for that, one way or another. And that causes that heat, that itch, the pain, one way or another. But I didn't know about the TRPV1, but there you have it. And that's the CBD binding with TRPV1 receptors in the skin. So that CBD is a topical. How CBD is effective as a topical, that's why, one of the reasons. And of course, I have also learned that CBD makes its way to the CB2 receptors through the skin. So, again, our bodies are developed. Our bodies are developed to take this substance in and use it where it needs it, one way or another. More and more proof of that. There it is. Fiji. Fiji's going to look into growing industrial hemp, and they're going to get their seeds from Canada, which makes sense. Which means they're probably, they're looking into the grain crop first. Canada is responsible for probably 60 to 70% of all the hemp grain grown in the world. Canada's the biggest grower of grain. And then what they're going to do is they're going to do some experimental crops at the University of Fiji. And then when they find out that it's safe and there's no THC and nobody can get high off of it, I think they're going to just go ahead and ship it out to the farmers and start growing industrial hemp. Especially for a grain food product. That's, I think, where everyone should really start. Don't start with the CBD or even the fiber. As much as I want the fiber to be grown, you start with the grain because then you make food out of that. And all citizens of all countries need food. And of course, I think all citizens of all countries need some type of clothing if they want it. I don't know if they need it, but I think most of them want it now. So growing for the fiber is also, a logical step. CBD market is still the one growing, really driving the market still. But I think we're seeing the slowdown kind of the CBD, the flattening out maybe, even a little bit of a decline from the peak CBD years. And now, I think people want to transition, or if people are transitioning to hemp now, they might be beyond that CBD part and actually wanting to transition as farmers to hemp for grain or fiber, which is great and the way to go. There is no doubt about it. It's kind of funny. I mentioned that Canada is responsible for 60% probably of all the hemp grain grown for food in the world. Well, there was a big stir. This is a tiny little community in Ontario, Kemptville. it's called, ironically. Again, turns into Hempville. Um, Kemptville, Ontario, at their public meetings, people were all like, "Oh, I can't believe you're doing this." And the statement that the one guy, and it's a facility, so they want to build a facility, and this facility will store all the forms of hemp, which is great. From the leaves to so they're really trying to use whole plant. With this facility, they're going to grow, farm it, and all that. Um, the owner of the company, he says, um, I have never used hemp or cannabis. Um, and when he's talking about it, and what's really interesting about this now is, again, so everybody knows all hemp is cannabis. All hemp is cannabis. Okay. Not all cannabis is hemp. Um, but what this is becoming is, and we've kind of, I guess, done this officially now. Hemp is its own thing. It's like everyone's looking at hemp as its own now plant, separate from cannabis, which is completely wrong. Now, I like that people are referring to marijuana, the marijuana version of cannabis, as cannabis, because we've been trying to do that all along. And I understand um, when someone says, I use hemp, not cannabis, or I use cannabis, not hemp, I understand that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think for most people who were trying to educate on cannabis, period, it's a little confusing, because once again, all hemp is cannabis, but not all cannabis is hemp. And so, um, I just, think it's interesting in his, in his defining of it all. He's like, I haven't used it. Of course, Canada is quite friendly of all cannabis, honestly. So it's like, I don't understand why the people are even really worried about this tiny little town having this production facility built, and farming facility would, come in to grow hemp, not cannabis, to be clear. um, so be it. But it went, the cries of they went unheard, basically, and they voted, and they're gonna be able to build their facility and grow their hemp, not cannabis, there in Kempville. Can I be any more confusing? Um, Here we go. Researchers in the UK are going to study the effects of feeding salmon hemp. I've been talking a lot about feeding hemp to livestock. Um, Now, what I liked about this is it's not just going to be hemp seeds, but I think they're going to feed them hemp leaves. They're going to all parts of the plant to see how it works uh, digestively, if it increases their protein content in the meat, and so another really good livestock um, study that will hopefully help even us, here in the United States. Right now we're working on a cattle study. The goat study showed no adverse effects in feeding goats hemp. We haven't done chickens, but we really need to do chickens. We need to get hemp for chicken feed approved, like, almost instantly. Same for cattle, in my opinion. I think that, and I don't know, that's why a study would be great, but I believe my hypothesis is that because has such a great nutritional value, that would make a stronger, better cow for whatever reason. It would make a stronger, better chicken for whatever reason. Right now the large livestock, we don't know, the antibiotics and steroids and all this stuff that we know we shouldn't be feeding cattle. or chickens or any livestock. But because it's approved for human consumption and it's approved probably for livestock consumption, and that's how they get more meat. You can't argue them wanting to get more meat out of their cattle. That's what they do for a living. And so, uh, if we can get them to avoid that, having to do that, and feed them something that's sustainable and natural and grows out in the wild, then hemp is one of those solutions. And it needs to be sooner as opposed to later. But the data is not there. The proof that it's okay is not there. And so, of course, because industrial hemp is still looked at as some evil thing, nature forbid we feed it to nature. Nature forbid, nature feeds on nature. That just doesn't seem right. Every day it doesn't seem right. And so I think we're going to see that within the next year or two. I think we'll see enough studies, hopefully, that the Department of Agriculture makes a ruling that says, yes, industrial hemp grain is acceptable livestock feed. Industrial hemp leaves are approved livestock feed. If the cattle will eat the leaves, and they should, if the chickens will eat the leaves, and we know they will from the chicken farmer over in Phuket, I think it was, who was feeding his chicken the leaves of the cannabis plant, and he had the most popular chicken stand in the market, supposedly. Sold out of his chickens first. And so, that obviously a nutritional value crosses over. And he clearly said his chickens got bigger when he started feeding them cannabis leaves. And his customers noticed it. And before you knew it, those particular chickens were the first things that he was selling out when he brought them to market. And this is just one guy and one farmer's market across the world. But I think that, it's good enough for me to at least say, hey, let's find out whether that's true or not. How hard can it be to take a bunch of chickens and feed them hemp leaves? And they got to be prevalent, especially out. And again, here's the deal. Let's find out whether there's any THC in the leaf, if you're really that concerned about it. Let's do that first. And then, if there's not, and when there's not, or not a negligible amount, I should say, then there's really no argument not to feed it to them. And again, even if there is, and we feed it to them, then test the end result. Does that mean there's THC in the chicken meat you're going to eat? Does that mean there's THC in the eggs you're going to eat? Does that mean there's going to be THC in the beef? These are all questions that I'm okay answering. Do the study, find out. Let's make it official. Somebody, anybody, all the bodies, at all the universities, at all the places that can do this. Make it a priority, one way or another. All right. Well, that's all the news that was fit to ramble about this week. Don't forget, if you're anywhere near Lovington, Virginia, the Woodridge Farm Brewery's hemp maze is going through this weekend. Only got a couple days to do that. I forgot to get that one. September 24th, you got Hemp in the Holler down in Kentucky, the Music Hall of Fame in Mount Vernon. September 24th, you got the Hemp Hop Shrooms outdoor event in Carbondale, Illinois. And the harvesting and managing hemp grain for food. Man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to find the picture for that. I can't believe I flaked on showing the picture, because I know my buddy Mike Lewis, and I know he's a big part of Hemp in the Holler. But I think he had something else to do with something else. And now I can't find it, of course, but sorry about that, folks. Well,
this one? Hold on.
Is that the Yeah, harvesting and handling hemp grain for food. That's the one. Hey, there we have it. That's why I don't have more information, because there was a picture of the event. Now it's all coming together. Why won't this get big again? Get big! What the heck? There it is. Yes, this is the 13th, Tuesday next week. Harvesting and handling hemp grain for food. Um, so there you have it. If you're available to make that happen, I'm pretty sure this should be in Kentucky. I can't believe they don't actually have a. I can't believe they don't actually have a location. Maybe it's online. I'm sorry, which is even better. So if you're interested, see if that maybe is online, and then you can get involved with that. But Mike Lewis is, one of the preeminent hemp farmers. Been doing it since it was legal in the United States, almost 10 years now. Gosh, that's crazy to think about. We got a couple years to go, but almost 10 years. And so uh, he is a guru, not just with hemp, but agriculturally. He was a farmer. The state more or less, the agriculture farmer came to him at the time and said, "Hey, we want you to be a part of this hemp growing pilot program in Kentucky." And so he was one of a handful, literally a handful of farmers that grew hemp in the state of Kentucky, the first federally recognized hemp plants, um, and is still an advocate, an educator on hemp and agriculture, um, one way or another. So, all right, there you have it, folks. Thanks for watching. We do appreciate it, as always. And remember, reduce, reuse, recycle. Make everything else out of hemp. Having temptations?
See you all next week.